West Coast Leaf evolved out of an organization called the Charter of Rights Coalition, which was engaged in discussions with the federal government about the uses that women were hoping to make of Section 15 in particular and Section 28 of the Charter.
A group of good women actively involved in the Charter. That was set up to be a national group. But Lynn Smith, bless her heart, was part of that organization, and she came back to Vancouver with a vision. And that vision was, let's incorporate locally. Let's put a local body in place that would be doing the same work, but in BC from a provincial perspective.
It became apparent that it was necessary to have some organization that would take on this legal work that had to be done.
I'd say the primary work of LEAF during the time that I was involved in was taking cases to court. It was looking for cases that would help us hold on and concretize, if that's a word, the language of the Charter and the rights of women, and then move them out, expand them, improve the rights that women have worked so hard for in this country.
And so I went along and joined this other small group of women who were just in the process of incorporating a society that was going to be West Coast Leaf. It was a very small group. I remember that we met in Lynn Smith's dining room. Shortly after that, the law school at UBC accommodated us with a donation of an office space which consisted of a filing cabinet that stood outside Lynn Smith's office door.
We were looking for cases across Canada and in BC that would help us persuade the courts that the discrimination women faced and dealt with on a day-to-day basis was in fact discrimination in law. Because if we could persuade courts of that, then we could help move the law to help address that situation. So it was taking a very specific form, the courts, a very specific tool, litigation, and putting them together to help women. The brutal reality was we needed money to do the work. We were fortunate in that women and men donated huge amounts of time to helping us prepare the cases, but we needed dollars.
We implemented or instituted training for board members on a regular basis so that we become comfortable with the notion of fundraising and how to go about doing it.
And the Law Foundation of British Columbia was very good to us. They provided core support, core financial support that allowed us to open an office and hire a paid staff person.
And really, West Coast Leaf accomplishes a great deal on very little, solely because of the commitment and the dedication and the hard work of the women who volunteer for it.
And we had to work on believing in ourselves, believing in the work of LEAF, before we could go out and ask lawyers, law firms, individuals, groups for dollars.
Our primary big-ticket event is the Equality Breakfast. It used to be held sort of around the time when women first became recognized as persons, but we've moved that in the last 3 to 4 years to a date that coincides with International Women's Day.
I think the Vancouver legal community really did a lot for LEAF. They supported us by buying tickets to the breakfast. There's probably still lawyers in Vancouver who won't take my phone calls because they're pretty sure I'm trying to sell them something.
And the two biggest attacks against LEAF by women have been that we were elitist and that we were racist.
When I started out in West Coast LEAF, we were really a white organization. We were a group of white female lawyers.
Women with, leisure time to think about these issues and form an organization.
But there was a lot of stuff we didn't know and we didn't understand. And those of us who were lawyers or, like me, had relations to people with money, what did I know necessarily about people on welfare and what their lives were really like?
It's not just about treating people the same, it's about leveling the playing field so that you recognize the differences between men and women as well as among women themselves. We know that Aboriginal women, immigrant women, women of color were far more disadvantaged than white middle-class women.
Everyone in the organization had to spend a lot of time in self-examination around these issues.